We're visiting with Ludovic Morlot, who's making his only Northwest appearance of the season as the conductor of Carmen at Seattle Opera. Ludovic was born in Lyon, France in 1973. He studied conducting in London and in Tanglewood and served as music director of Seattle Symphony from 2011 to 2019. His current post is with the Barcelona Symphony Orchestra. Ludo, it's great to have you back in town and back on the show.
Oh, always a treat to be back here, which feels like home still. It's wonderful.
That's good to hear. This is your first time conducting Carmen as a fully staged production, yes?
Indeed, I've had a chance to do extended, highlights from the opera, either in concert or in semi-stage production. But it's the first time I really get to tackle a full production of that masterpiece.
So it's possible to be a French conductor and still make it into your 50s before doing Carmen.
I think I waited quite a bit actually. To be frank, I kind of turned it down a few times, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know, the wrong kind of time and wrong circumstances. But I feel especially excited to be doing my first one here with the Seattle Symphony in the pit, of course, that I know so well.
Now, the last time we spoke, you were about to conduct Beethoven's Fifth Symphony at Benaroya Hall. It's probably the most famous of all symphonies, and Carmen is probably the most famous opera of them all. So I have the same question as before. How do you approach conducting a piece that's so ubiquitous? Do you look for new angles, or do you try to stay as close as you can to the text?
Well, I mean, always my duty is to stay close to the text, obviously, but in the case of a production, opera production, I think one of my job is really to try to also be an ally and serve alongside the vision of the stage director. So in that case, I'm really excited that I share the vision of this opera with Paul Curran, our stage director, which I think gives this score actually more layers than one is might be used to listen to or to be experiencing. I'm especially really impressed and happy with the way that there's tension that is being really kind of linking number after number in the opera. Carmen can become a little bit of a number opera where you
Yes.
you wait for the habanera and you wait for the segedi and then you wait for the toreador song and then you wait for. But I think there's incredible tension through the ensembles and even through those numbers if they're treated as dance number as well as duet with the chorus. The chorus has a huge role in Carmen, which it's not sometimes dramatically as enlightened as it should be, and then some performances kind of don't have time to really focus on the depth of the topic of that opera. So I'm really excited about this production that brings all those qualities to the score and maybe give it a little bit more of the what it must have felt like to experience it at the premiere in Paris in 1875.
You mentioned the death of Carmen, which comes at the end of Act 4, the part that most audiences least look forward to. It comes well after the most famous music has already been heard, and the score doesn't really depict the murder. Don Jose just says, you can arrest me. I killed her. Goodbye, Carmen. And the music ends in F sharp major. How are you and director Paul Curran going to tackle this troublesome ending?
Oh, I mean, I don't think I should. That would be a spoiler alert, but
All right.
but very dramatically indeed. The first time I saw the work on that scene in the rehearsals, I got goosebumps for a few minutes on end, because it's really powerful. It really also brings the quality, the raw quality of the character of Carmen into the play, because if you read actually Mérimée story, a book, and we know that Bizet based his opera on the third chapter of Mérimée, Carmen. It's important to read chapter 1 and 2 as well because you learn a lot about the characters before the opera starts. You learn, for instance, that Don José is a very violent character that that killed in the past, and therefore maybe that's why he's not promoted to being a general or in the higher
He's
ranks.
a lowly
Uh,
corporal.
you learn that Michaela actually never appears in the Mérimée novel. She's actually a role that has been created for the opera. So I think that's why I'm very happy about this production, because it takes those elements into consideration as we start the opera. Every character has already a very defined identity.
You've got two very different mezzo-sopranos alternating the title roles, Sasha Cook and Janae Bridges. They both have connections to Seattle, and they're both stars. They've sung at the Met. It's not like you have an A and a B cast.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's what makes it really exciting too. Is that not only both Carmens, but both Don Jose are very different. Both Escamillos are very different. Those are the three roles that are double cast.
And you mentioned having done Carmen before in concert, not on stage. You actually did that in Barcelona last year. Do you run into any complications performing Carmen in Spain?
No, no, it's as popular there as in the rest of the world, and we actually did it on the beach in the concert outdoor for the community, which was I selected about an hour of excerpts and made a bit of a suite of the opera like that. But it was quite dramatic, and of course huge positive response from the audience. Um, has to be said, Carmen was a complete failure at the premiere in Paris. We think of this opera being super famous, super popular, but it took a while before it became so, because of the topic, of course, but because of it was everything the opera was not supposed to be, right? Uh, and at the time, and sadly, Bizet never really saw the success it became, because he died only a couple of months after the premiere in Paris. But the Paris premiere at the Opéra Comique was actually a bit of a scandal. I mean, every premiere in Paris seems to turn as to be a scandal. But remember Rite of Spring.
Yes.
But it's very true. The opera took a while to actually really become the success that we know today.
Ludovic Morlot is my guest, talking about Carmen by Georges Bizet, who was only 36 when he died. Catch Carmen at Seattle Opera from May 2nd to May 17th. Tickets and information at seattleopera.org. We're going to switch now to another Paris-born composer who seems incapable of dying, Betsy Jolas, who is 99 years old and still going strong. We've been listening to your new album devoted to her orchestral music, which you recorded with the Barcelona Symphony. What attracted you to her music? Is she a recent discovery for you, or have you known her for a while?
Well, I was aware of her music for a long time, but I think it's mostly the recent commissions from major orchestras, like Berlin
Mhm.
Philharmonic and San Francisco Symphony and Boston Symphony, um, that made me a little bit more aware of her symphonic music. I was slightly more aware of her vocal music. I guess we have this in common, that we both left France as quite young citizens, and to come and live in America, and then she went back, which I haven't, but who knows? Maybe I will. But there was this kind of a same journey in a way, where we studied or been exposed to a little bit of the same environment, and
Mhm.
I felt that also exciting to explore that.
Her parents were both American,
Yeah,
and she spent World War II in the US.
that's right.
She belongs to the same generation as Boulez, and they both studied with Messiaen. And her music reminds me of Boulez, but with more humor. Does it sound French to you, or American?
It sounds very individual, and I think that's why I love it so much. I think she has a voice that is quite unique. You mentioned, her teachers were Messiaen and Milhaud, but I think you can't really hear this in her music. I love the use of how she uses percussions, for instance. I think that's very singular, the way she does it. Her pieces are very, you mentioned humor, which also I think is a trait that I really love in her music.
She'll celebrate her 100th birthday in August. How are you doing, Ludo? A lot has happened since we last had you on the show. You were one of 200,000 people who lost their homes in the LA fires. How are you and your family getting on?
Yeah, we'll be fine. I mean, I won't lie, it's been a huge distraction, and it's been a bit of a headache to rebuild, our lives around this. But I mean, we're so lucky to have music and art and uh, uh, creative projects in our lives, and I mean, that makes everything else a little bit kind of redundant, really. Um, I have to say, I miss mostly my library and the work I've put into all those scores and that
Mm-hmm.
I've lost. But you might be aware that the Seattle Symphony and the Seattle community, in fact, as well as other bodies, musical bodies in the world, have been incredibly generous in helping me to rebuild my library. So that's my opportunity to thank everybody in Seattle that has been involved with really helping me rebuild my library, which has been a very, very moving thing for me.
That's great. Will you keep Los Angeles as a home base?
Indeed, yes. LA, and I also have my home in Barcelona, of course. So it's wonderful places. I've loved going back to LA whenever I have a little bit of time off, and it's also developing, a project with the LFL and other local orchestras. And I think LA is booming anyway artistically. You see the soon to be the new opening of a new hall attached to Colburn's score, and
Yes.
then all those collaborations and new leadership at the opera. And so, I mean, there's really a incredible wealth of a project there. So I mean, that's the first thing I look at when I'm home is what's going on down there, And I always welcome a trip downtown because I've always been uh, challenged and really, really enjoy my visits there. So it's a great base for us at the moment.
Once Carmen wraps up, you'll be back in Europe with gigs in Sweden and the UK before finishing the season in Barcelona. And we'll see you again in October for a program called The Sounds of Spring. It'll be your first time conducting at Benaroya Hall since Xian Zhang's appointment as music director.
Yeah.
What can we expect from it?
Oh, I'm excited to come back. It was very important for me to leave a season to Xian Zhang so that she can really have the space to impose her vision and her voice. It was something I would always planned. I had planned it with Thomas Dalsgaard when he came in as well, and uh, it was important. So coming back with this program is especially exciting after that long empty season. The starting seed of this program was the piano concerto by Samuel Adams. He doesn't call it a concerto really. It's called No Such Spring, and this is written for Connor Hannick. That was premiered in San Francisco a couple of years ago. And I mean, Samuel being part of the community now, I felt, oh, that's a nice idea to highlight this piece, and um, so I started with the idea of spring simply, and I thought the Schumann First Symphony was kind of a obvious choice there with the subtitle Spring, And then I was looking for an opener, and there's actually a friend of mine in England that told me, oh, you should explore this piece called Enter Spring by Frank Bridge, which I didn't know at all.
He was Benjamin Britten's teacher.
That's correct. And I went, read the score, listened to a couple of recordings, and I really fell in love with this piece. And I thought with the connection with the spring theme, but also the language, the vocabulary of it was so different to the other two pieces that I thought I would explore that. And this was a very kind of a program built around Samuel Adams' piece.
We're hearing excerpts from No Such Spring in the background. Samuel Adams is the son of John Adams, the composer of Nixon in China, and his wife is Helen Kim, the Associate Concertmaster of Seattle Symphony. Performances will be October 22nd and 24th. The Sounds of Spring in October.
Yeah. Don't ask me why. That's
I'd like to return to Betsy Jolas one more time. We've got another track lined up from your new recording of her orchestral music. It's called B-Day for Symphony Orchestra. She wrote it for the 10th birthday of Boston Modern Orchestra Project, and it begins with the sound of an orchestra tuning up. But what happens next?
I mean, there's a bit of a theatrical element to it, and when I performed it, I remember we did this where the orchestra tunes, and the orchestra makes its way to the podium while the piece is already being composed. So this is kind of a fake tuning and a fake entrance.
It's like the Farewell Symphony in reverse.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you start hearing, of course, a little bit of a bits of melodies that very quickly resemble the Happy Birthday song, but not quite. It's so well crafted that you know it's there, but you're not quite sure how it's gonna develop. And it's kind of a set of variations, actually, where you hear more and more of those developments of ideas around the Happy Birthday tune, which is never fully quoted, by the way. And it's music that makes you feel good. You know, when I listen to Betsy's music, I feel like I'm listening to Mozart or the late Elliot Carter, actually.
Another
The
centenarian whose music you've conducted, a
right,
premiere, in
right.
fact.
And I felt his music was, especially at the end of his life, became very humorous and light and uh, lightly spirited, and make somehow find some kind of balance that made you feel really good. And Betsy's music makes me feel happy somehow. So
So feel-good music that ends more happily than Carmen.
yes,
My guest has been Ludovic Morlot. Catch him at Seattle Opera, conducting Carmen from May 2nd through May 17th. Performances are on Saturday nights and Sunday afternoons, with a single Friday night and a single Wednesday night thrown in, for a total of 8 opportunities, featuring 2 different lead singers, so you can go twice. Tickets and information are available at seattleopera.org. Ludo, it's always a delight to chat with you. Thanks again for coming on the show.
likewise, Michael. It's just such a treat. Thanks for having me on the program.
Here is B-Day for Symphony Orchestra by Betsy Jolas.